Let's rejoin Simon Reed and Chris Howarth in Sofia as the reigning champions, Klimova and Ponomarenko, take to the ice.
Champions for the last 2 years, skating to Lawrence of Arabia, Marina Klimova and Sergei Ponomarenko. European and world champions for the last 2 years.
So far, they haven't looked as strong and as polished as in recent years. What a complete change of feel from the champions. Before, they've tended to have routines, you've been light and frothy, and shown Marina up there, Natalia Dubova, who trains them in Moscow. That was much tougher, much more drama, very great difficulty in it, and at times it seemed almost too great. Absolutely. I thought actually at the beginning of the program, Sergei looked very tense. He didn't seem to relax and get into his skating. Now, of course, the competition's really, really tight. There's no margin for error at all. Here we can see some of the difficulty. The move's very, very difficult indeed. But that's not as good as I've seen Sergei skate, but the mark's very, very good for technical merit.
Yes, fine marks. 5-7 from the Swiss.
been marking low all the way through. Remember, it's their position in relation to other skaters on each judge's mark that really counts. 5.9, 1 5.8, 1 5.7. Now they normally sweep the board with artistic impressions, but they haven't here. 3 5.8s, 4 5.9s. Now they've skated first in this final group, and that may be a disadvantage, or maybe the judges are just leaving room just in case the Duchesnays or Usova Zulin produce something spectacular. That may be enough to retain their title, but they cannot take it for granted by any means. There is room there. So here are the runners-up last year. In third place going into the free dance, Майя Усова and Alexander Zhulin from the Soviet Union. Sick of being runners-up, and earlier this year, for the first time ever, beat Klimova and Ponomarenko in the Soviet Championships. Remember, if they win this free dance, they could win the competition. Spellbinding. And Natalia Dubova watches now and waits for the response from the judges. An ecstatic response from the audience here. There's the Soviet contingent. You can probably see Viktor Petrenko, the men's champion, in the middle of the picture. A wonderful performance.
But that was absolutely brilliant. Marvellous programme. My only thought, there was a lot of repetition through the programme. Alexander spent a lot of time doing steps on his knees, and also there was a lot of running on the toes, particularly in the beginning of the programme. But a fantastic performance. I thoroughly enjoyed it. For me, they're probably my favourite dancers. Well, they've given the Duchesnay something to follow.
But the marks, not that good. You can see below in our ice bar the marks for Klimova and Ponomarenko, and that shows the story. Klimova and Ponomarenko at least 0.1 better right across the board, apart from the Swiss, who has them the same. Now for artistic impression. 5.7 from the Swiss, otherwise 4 5.9s. And I would imagine, despite that Klimova and Ponomarenko are in the lead. Usova and Zhulin have not done enough, and the champions remain in front against their compatriots, but now they have one more couple up against them. There's Christopher Dean, who has choreographed the program you're about to see. His fiancée out there on the ice, Isabelle Duchesnay, with her brother Paul. They lead at the moment. They have never won either a European or a world title. This could be their moment. Danger with that overarm lift. quite an extraordinary ending. And it's not surprising that they stumbled at the end of it. But that wasn't scheduled.
Well, I've never seen any program ended like that. Phenomenal, very, very difficult. And there's the marks for technical merit.
A haunting program, packed full of difficulty, and the marks very, very similar. So difficult, just slightly better. Klimova and Ponomarenko, a perfect 6 from the French, but I don't think it's enough. But it looks as if Klimova and Ponomarenko have just done enough, and the Duchesnays, I think, are going to miss out again. It's desperately close.
The defending champs making it a fabulous championship for the Soviet team. The dancer Duchesnay is taking the silver medal for the second year running ahead of Usova and Zulin pairing.